for Revolutionary Research Science. Over the next 15 minutes, then we'll have intermission for about 10 or 15 minutes, then we'll come back and hear from our esteemed brother, Dr. Jeffries and Dr. Collins. How many of y'all gonna be with us all night? We're gonna do the reading all night. We're gonna do a party all night. We're gonna feed on knowledge all night. Don't feel bad about what's happening tonight. Well, one thing that I did admire about going to the Jewish Holocaust Museum is you don't tell them how to honor their suffering and their dead. They do it, they honor their suffering and their dead, and you don't tell them nothing about it. We don't have a museum, but we do have the Black Holocaust program tonight, and we're proud of what we're doing tonight in commemoration of our ancestors. Let's bring on the name dropper, the man who speaks, Revolutionary Research Sciences, Steve Oakley.
How you doing? All right? How you pushing that now? All right, all right. I appreciate you, brothers and sisters. Hotep. I'm very honored to have a few minutes just to share a little information with you to hopefully I can advance the reason why we're here tonight. I especially want to thank Brother Khalid for extending himself out to me today. I'm honored for the invitation, and I appreciate being amongst such good brothers and sisters. I also see as well in the audience many other outstanding brothers and sisters who on any other night would equally be as honored and as shared. I see Sister Nana Shishibi there from the Pan-African Congress. I see Sister Mary Cox out there, attorney and freedom fighter. I see Sister Deborah 2X was down here from Baltimore. I see Brother Elder Yehuda out there. I know Brother Eric is here from the Research Brothers and Sisters from New York. Brother Steve is here from Dallas. There's people here from all the way from Los Angeles. I really appreciate the opportunity as the focus is geared towards the Black Holocaust. And of course, whenever you have a murder, you must have a murderer. There must be someone who does the murder. So now that we're looking at what was a dead body that is resurrected, we must now find out who tried to put it in a comatose state. For what you will find in all of the people who have come to stand before you as warriors, and those of you who are warriors in your own right, it is our goal to pursue the core of negativity. We have agreed that somewhere at the bottom of our problem there is a core or a main group of key individuals and institutions and organizations who have pulled off consecutively over the years negative activity against our people without retribution. Part of the failure to retribute has been lack of knowledge. Part of what Brother Malik has tried to do here today is to fill the gap and to provide our people with access to information that is denied. I think what each of these men could vouch for in their moments of greatest attack from the enemy, that in the midst of all the greatest sources, I remember Dr. Jeffries on the Donahue show pulling up every book of the hunkies he could find to relay that he didn't need dogma or rumor from the black community to verify what was being done to us. They had, in their own arrogance and braggadocious nature, they had said all the things we needed to say, and the brother stood there with the evidence. And I remember Brother Tony Martin standing moment after moment bringing up the names of those people, institutions, historically and current, in his attack on the people who have attacked him. And he knows there was a point when they looked at him and said, you know, it really ain't about the facts. You see, what you have witnessed in the spirit of the scholar, because it alleged that we lacked the knowledge or the information of the fingers on the points of the people who were doing it, was that when the scholars arose with the information, they and I and others found out that they really weren't interested in the truth. It was bigger than that. Just we took the gray area out of the attack and found out that their attack wasn't based on fact. They were, in fact, the haters they were calling us. I recently had the honor of just leaving the University of Illinois, where I went back for free to retaliate against whites who had attacked me. I don't very often talk to whites. I do not talk to the media. I do not entertain some of the ones I see here today. And as a strategy, one of our cameras must get a picture of all those who are here to take pictures of us. That must happen. We must have always accessible the pictures and the profiles. When Dr. Collard pointed out that Richard Cohen was in the front row, that's when he left. Finger pointing and naming the names does have a way of moving the enemy. So I had the honor, after spending 2-3 hours of dropping Carol Quigley and talking about the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberger Group and the Skull and Bones and the Rhodes Scholars and the Boule, the little Jewish students the next day went to the newspaper and said that Coakley must have got his information out of Mein Kampf. But no, those were good white scholars because, as I've always said, because we've been so indoctrinated, we know it takes a good white scholar to prove to our people that the truth is the truth. Us saying it has never been enough, and we bore that burden in spite of that, and still it wasn't the facts. So if it isn't the facts, then it must be the force. I salute you in the spirit of the Bogard, because the facts will back up the rationale, but it'll be the Bogard that will put it in force. I'm on just quickly tonight to try to add a few names and a few insights. I'll be here again on June 3rd with the trial of the oath takers. I've chosen to attack the oath takers because as I've gone from city to city and attacked the Greek connection, I found out that there were oaths and rituals that people absolved their faith to and support that prohibited them from being ultimately loyal to black people. These oath takers are really not personal, they're institutional. And the Army takes an oath, the lawyers take an oath, the doctors take an oath. These oaths, and only in rare case like a good lawyer like Mary Cox and a strong doctor like Dr. Alim, who would break the oath to defend their people first and foremost. These are rare moments in our community, but the oath takers are a part of our enemy structure. I know Dr. Collard isn't here now, so I'm going to save my opening for the close because it's something very personal for him. As I began to come out of college and fight against, I always wanted to be a freedom fighter. You know, there's no spot in our community called freedom fighter. And everybody, if you ask them if they had the choice, if they could fight for their people all day and all night, that this would be one of the most honorable things a person of our race would want. But there is no position called freedom fighter, for the right to fight for black people is something that you have to do, as some would want you to think, after you got through working for someone else. But time has passed and the way has been made that more people have come across on their own. But when I first started out in the black community in Chicago, I was offered a job at an organization. It was called the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. It was headed by a white man named Milt Cohen, who recently died, and a white woman who is still active in Chicago named Jane Ramsey. I say that because every time we say a name in front of the hunkies who are here to report on what we say, tomorrow they will report to those people that their names were mentioned, and this is the type of tension we need to put on the enemy. You might not know all who they are, but they'll spend some time defending them tomorrow when we've called their names in front of you. So that will make the offense spend some time defending the things that they have come to offend us about. But what I found out was that the black community in Chicago was being watched. That the only way you could effectively pull off a Holocaust on a group of people in the now society is to try to watch the emergings of them, the organizing and coming together of them, the projection of values and strength by them. Those are the things that the enemy sticks his thermometer deep down into our tongues and up our butts to find out when it is and what it is they think they can pull off. In Chicago, I found this early warning system. It was funded by the United Way. So today I suggest to you, if you're going to stop the black Holocaust, you're going to have to stop the good hands of the United Way. I say that because, and listen, I'm going fast, so we don't have no time for applause. I bring the United Way up because it was the United Way that formed an early warning system, which is what the spy thing is called, an early warning system. Our eyes and ears are listening post, these adjectives. And this early warning system had formed a coalition which was to monitor what was going on in the black community of Chicago. And they went out and empowered 25 organizations to be snitches against the wishes of black people. And even though the goal of this project was to monitor developing racial tension and to take advanced intervention when necessary, listen to the language, they only watched black people. But deep inside the early warning system, I saw people from the Urban League. I saw people from the NAACP. I saw Operation Push. I saw the United Church of Christ. I saw many people who I got slightly confused by because I didn't understand why any $18, $20, $30, $50, or $100,000 was worth a person crossing their own people unless they felt that their own people didn't know enough about how they did the damn spying to fear the people catching them. So I started off with a little 2-page document that started to describe how the Anti-Defamation League, and this is, I found them in 79. They got caught in 1992, but I caught them in 79. It just took a long time for the people to believe that Brother Coakley was as credible as the district attorney in San Francisco. And each and every one of these brothers up there, I saw huge, extensive profiles of Dr. Collett in that 900-page document that the white district attorney of San Francisco had to turn in to a black judge, to get the right to raid their offices. And when they asked them to raid the offices in Los Angeles to find where this information was duplicated and located, the black police chief wouldn't assume his own authority and transact the raid. They had to call in police from another district because the black man didn't want to defend the names that he saw in the list. And even though there were some whites in there, there were names of black people like those up here who wasn't worth him going to defend. Reason I say that is that we're pretty mad at the white guy, but the white guy we might not see to the last moment. In fact, I had this dream, this fantasy. We got Rockefeller over here, we got Oppenheimer over here, we got Rothschilds over there, and we got the noose right here. And the crimes that had been read out before the people. And I know it was a little white guy here from Australia. He said, "You Steve Coakley?" I said, "No, he went that way." But I turned to the brothers in the back I was talking to, and I said, "You see, that guy, he come over here from Australia because the reason he want to know is that his godfather is Harry, Ernest, and what's the other Oppenheimer? Harry Jr. Those are his godfathers. So when we stand up and say that the man who helped today enslave New Zealand and enslave Australia and enslave all of Africa is led by the Oppenheimer family, yes, they will come from the BBC and the CBC and the Australian news to hear that the names of the hunkies who have hidden for so long are now on the street in D.C. They're on the street in L.A. They're on the street in Kansas City and Detroit, and the little people have decided that the big ones are not going to make it. So I want to say a name or two so that the whites will go away and effectively spread the cancer to the others that we mentioned their name. Now, there was a case that the Anti-Defamation League had spied on the brothers and sisters, even 12,000 people in organizations. But what you don't know is how it was that the case was settled that the Anti-Defamation League did not get criminally violated. There are some weird white people out here, and I want to tell the whites that there are whites who are leaking information about them every day to people who they believe have the courage to use it. And whites had made claim that the Anti-Defamation League of the United States works right through the National Security Council. And when I did a little check over at the National Security Council, and I remember when they said they were spying on Chris Hani when he came over here, and I tried to figure out what the connection was. Then I looked up and found that the head of the African desk of the National Security Council is a white man who's named David Steinberg. Now, David Steinberg's name ain't never been mentioned in the history of the black community since he done took that position. He know that. But today we introduce his name into the arena as a group of people whose names must never be forgotten, and you should take the time to look him up in your phone book so that you know where he lives, where Jim Woosley lives, who heads the CIA. Where does Warren Christopher live, who runs the State Department? The CIA jams Africa through the embassies in Africa, and that's where they hide the CIA. So Warren Christopher and the Deputy Secretary of State, Strong Talbot, and Peter Tarnoff, the former president of the Council on Foreign Relations, who's the third in command at the State Department, those names should be in the forefront of you, as well as Winston Lord's name, as well as David Ross's name. And of course, I want to repeat again David Steinberg, because it was him who got the Anti-Defamation League out of that criminal case when they spied on other people. Two things I want to leave you with. One is on July 8th to July 15th, Brother Coakley is having a conference in Baltimore. And the reason he's having the conference in Baltimore is because it appears as if there was a mistake made by the Hyatt Regency Hotel in the harbor there, and it looks like Brother Coakley and the Boule, Sigma Pi Phi, are going to be having a convention at the same time, July 8th to July 15th in Baltimore, Maryland. Stop now, stop. Don't waste my time. And how many of you, since L.A. is coming, Detroit is coming, Chicago's coming, they have the furthest to come. It will cost them the most to get here. But the key to the bottom 10, for the first time in the history of our race, brothers, the bottom 10 is going to meet the top 10. And I know, I done drew out a lot of strange occurrences on this because everybody don't want everybody to know how clear the top 10 works on behalf of protecting the hunky. But we have resolved the riddle of their Grecian Sphinx, and now the day has come that the bottom 10 must confront the top 10 to protect the safety and sanctity of the race. This must happen. How many of you would be willing to come to the Hyatt Regency in Baltimore during this 10-day period? All right, stop. I'll be downstairs. I'm in a booth downstairs. We can talk about that. My tapes are down there, and the other vendors down there ask that we make sure that they know, that you know they're down there, and they need your support too. Last thing. It would be a great remiss if we didn't take our chance to put on the record that we wanted to enforce some retaliation against the enemy. And around this country, in fact, just 2 weekends ago here, the Republic of New Africa, which I was on a forum with, in fact, with Brother Chokwe Lumumba, they ratified a resolution that I proposed, which was for economic sanctions against non-black businesses for the months of November, December, and January. This must be. Now, I've been attacked right here in the black press for suggesting that in Washington by the Negro element in African clothes, but that's all right. Stop now. But I need you to understand that when the hunky walk away and he said, well, what did they say they were going to do? He writes it down. Sometimes that's the vaguest of all the lists. We must, and I ask you to ratify a resolution that calls for economic sanctions against non-black businesses for those 3 months, because that's the months that 60% of all goods are sold. And if we were ever to punish the whites, this is something anybody can do. All you got to do is hold your pockets. You don't even have to say nothing. You don't have to believe in it. You might not be spending nothing no way. At least take pride now in not being able to do it. So I hope all of you would be willing to do that, so that when they go away, they know it's some economic retaliation on the buffer. And in closing, the New York Times, almost a year ago today, April 18th, 1993, Sister Nana, openly advocated the recolonization of Africa. And I want to say fuck them just to that, because, because the audacity of trying to draw question about our brother and his statements about Africa, when in fact you are on the record a year ago yesterday. Colonialism is back, and not a moment too soon. Some countries are not yet fit to govern themselves, and then they end by saying, we're going to get Africa. So I know that, brother, you stepped on a wire of theirs that they didn't really want attention being focused on, but we want to let them know that we have not forgotten them, and that we know them with the Council on Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs, openly advocating a year ago today, we're going to make Africa beg to be recolonized. I don't know if you know about the past Holocaust, but you better dig in and get ready against this now one. There's some now people who feel so arrogant and so alone that they can openly do this just with whites and think we're not listening. So we'll put the pressure on them. And one last thing. Brother Khaled, do you remember when we were in Atlanta at the Revolution 101 conference? And at that conference, we were sitting down and looking at the Anti-Defamation League's attack on black leaders. Brother Jeffrey's in there. Brother Martin will be in the next one. Brother Malik going to be in the next one. But when we looked at that report, you looked at me and you said something that I mentioned to almost every audience I go to because it touched me personally. You said, brother, you were looking for your name. And you were looking and said, damn, I ain't got but 2 paragraphs. You know, we were talking. And now he said something that was very heavy. He said, one day my son is going to look at me and say, Daddy, why you only got 2 paragraphs in the destruction of the enemy? And he looked at me and he said, brother, shit, I got to do better than this. He did. Well, brother, I know that Brother Malik and Brother Martin and Brother Jeffries and you too, Brother Collett, you have made your sons and your daughters proud. You have earned your spurs against the enemy. Thank you.
Once again, Brother Steve Brooklyn. All right. Well, we're going to take a